Hello and happy Tuesday, and welcome to the Sabrena and Ben Real Estate Hour here on 1240 AM Hot News Talk Radio, where we talk all things real estate, mortgages, loans, and community. We like to talk about anything going on in the community. Unfortunately, Ben won't be with us today, Mark. I called him and talked to him, and he's in New Orleans. New Orleans on business, he says. I bet he's having a little extracurricular fun in there.
I bet he's getting some good meals while he's there, too.
I bet he is. I bet he is. But anyway, he'll be back next week. He's not here today. Talking all things community, I believe this Friday is early voting.
It is.
We have a very important election coming up August the 4th. I think there's a number of school board races on the ballot, state representative races, as well as the assessor of property.
Yeah.
Big election year, and like I just told a group this morning, I was talking to a group of realtors, it matters who governs. You know, if you own property, just about everybody has a house, may be your biggest investment, the biggest purchase you ever make. And let me tell you that the schools have a direct impact on your property value. Whether you got kids in the system or not, it matters, because if you don't have good schools and you have failing schools, then guess what? That has a negative impact on your property value.
Yeah, people are leaving that area and going somewhere else, and your property value's just falling.
Absolutely. And things matter. It matters who governs at a local level as well as the state level. You know, we've been very fortunate to have a lot of conservative state representatives who really represent the people. And we're going to have two special guests today. First of all, in the studios, we have Joe Wingate. And Joe Wingate is running for District 7 School Board. Actually, my district, which is East Brainerd, Appleton, a portion of Ottawa and Collegedale. And we're so honored to have you here with us today, Joe. Thank you for taking the time. I know you're busy. This is probably your busiest week leading up to early voting, I would imagine. Is that correct?
Right.
Probably got a lot of things on your plate this week. I know there's a big event coming up this evening. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, there's a forum tonight. WTCI Channel 45 is having a candidate forum. All candidates are invited. There are 10 in this election, with the incumbents and the challengers. They're going to have a live studio audience, and they're going to take questions from Twitter feeds and also from the audience, and going to have a chance to just get out there and voice our opinions on, you know, where we think we need to go with this new school board that we'll have here in the fall, and with half of these seats in theory possibly turning over, and just kind of see, let the public have a chance to see what these candidates and incumbents are all about.
Now, is this going to be televised live, or do you know, or are they going to be showing that at a later date?
It'll be a live taping, live studio audience,
Mm-hmm.
but they will tape that tonight, and then it will be shown Thursday evening.
So Thursday evening. So it's very important for anyone tuning in. Put that on your calendar to watch Thursday evening.
That's right. You need to see it.
I'm telling you, we're at a critical time in public education. Anyone that has been paying attention, you've heard about our test scores. You've heard about our low literacy scores and the challenges we face with the third and fourth graders going all the way up through high school. A number of our high schoolers are not in our schools. The students aren't even testing high enough to show that they're ready to enter college. When they get to college, they're having to take remedial courses. And Joe, you are an instructor at Chattanooga State, so you see this firsthand, correct?
Right, that's right. And we've seen this, and I've mentioned this earlier at some other forums and debates. It's been a slow decline. This is not an acute change, I don't think, in regards to what we've seen from young men and young women that are coming out of our school system. And so I think we're going to need a strategic plan that's going to last us, excuse me, for the next 8-10 years. Give us a plan.
You're right. You know, one thing, we didn't get here overnight, and it is going to take a while to get out of it. And it's going to take perseverance and determination and people that are truly committed. And, you know, I know that Joe, well, he'll be back in a minute. He got choked up. The thing about Joe, and I've had the pleasure of meeting his lovely wife, and he has 3 beautiful kids. I think you've got a son that entered kindergarten this year.
That's right.
And so, from what you've shared, and once you get you some water, kind of tell our listeners kind of what got you involved and interested in maybe running for the school board. And I know you're unique because you do have that vested interest, having 3 kids that are in the system.
That's right. Our oldest began kindergarten, finished kindergarten this year, and we just, my wife and I are lifetime educators and had been removed. We both taught public school for a while. Excuse me. And we, have now a vested interest, and we've both seen the products. And we have some good things going on in the system, but as a whole, we're not doing a very good job, and that's no secret to the community. And so I just felt led to get involved, and there were many ways to get involved. But as I talked to different people, pardon me, this was the avenue that seemed like we could have the greatest impact, and so that's why we decided to do it, and haven't looked back, and ready to be a part of some change.
Well, there's going to no doubt be a number of issues and challenges facing the next school board. And I think that there's probably going to be some major changes in who gets elected. But there's going to be some major challenges and issues facing the next school board. And one will be the selection of a superintendent. And I'm kind of curious, Joe, I know we've spoken before, and one thing that you've campaigned on and said is that a problem you've noticed is the lack of leadership.
That's right. Leadership at all levels, not just superintendent level, but school board level. Lack of quality leaders, I think, in our school buildings. We do have some good leaders, but we need more of them. It's a big system. It's a large town, and we have close to 43,000 students. We need to be out recruiting actively some of the top-notch leaders, and we also need to be grooming them, and we've not done a very good job of that. And I think, again, that's no secret, and we've got to do a better job of that. We've got to determine what we value in this county, the values that we want our children to have, hard work, perseverance, dedication, lifelong learners. And I think, for the most part, families in this town want to see that, and we need to see some change. And this is one way that we can do this. It can start with these elections and begin again to try to turn over some of this and get some change, and then see where we can go with that. And hopefully, one thing I think that people need to realize is, as a school board member, the authority that you have, or the ability that you have to be able to make changes, is in shaping policy.
Right.
And so, the only actual employee that the school board has is the superintendent, and they have to hold him accountable, and then be able to look at policy, shape policy that begins to align the school system and their administration in the direction that the community wants to go and wants to see change. So I think, yes, leadership is huge. And when it comes to this next superintendent, we've got to go out and find someone who is willing to be the person who will make a decision and live with those consequences, good or bad. And I think we may have to look outside the realm of an educator for that. I am an educator. Would love to see an educator come in and do that, but at the same time, it's a very unique job. I've said it many times, and we're asking someone to come in and deal with a very large budget,
Right.
one that most CEOs in America don't deal with. We're asking them to come in and deal with a facilities budget and buildings that most educators don't have a background to deal with, logistics and transportation for students, payroll, personnel, 6,000 employees. Again, I'd love to be able to see an educator who could do those things, but we need to have, I think, an open mind to the fact that we need to also be looking into the business world, someone who's smart enough to come in and manage those things, but also smart enough to realize they need good educators and people with education backgrounds around them.
Yeah, I think more than ever, our leadership is very important, whether it be superintendent or school board, that those people that are selected have a true servant's heart and that their priorities are right. And I mean that by saying, the focus has to be on the students and the teachers. That's where the focus has to be. But at the same time, you have to be looking out for the taxpayers. And one thing I appreciate about you, Joe, is I've noticed, because I've been to several debates, I've listened to you, you've done your homework, You've put a lot of critical thought into it, and it shows that you've done your homework. You've dug in. You've looked at the budget, and we can talk about that a little bit too. I know it's not quite as straightforward as we wish it was. I mean, it's kind of hard to uh, look through it and point out all the line items and see how things are categorized. It's hard for me as a county commissioner. But at the county, you know, we just passed a $679 million budget. And about 60% of everything we fund, 60% of it goes towards education.
Yep.
The Department of Education this year, they've gone from $405 million from the 2016 budget to this new budget, $416 million.
So they got an increase.
They got a major increase. And, you know, they asked, last year they came before the county commission. They asked for $34 million. And the focus was that was going to go towards arts and foreign language.
Mm-hmm.
This year, that kind of changed. And I think a lot of that was inspired by the Chattanooga 2.0 movement. You know, the Chattanooga 2.0 movement, if you've heard about the details from that study, they uncovered that about 63% of our third and fourth graders are not reading at grade level.
Which means they're behind the rest of their years.
And the big picture is that over the next 5 years, there's going to be over 15,000 jobs here in Hamilton County that we may not be able to meet the workforce demands because our students aren't ready for college. They're, like we already said, they're going in, they're having to do remedial courses. There's a big need for vocational training and stuff like that. But anyway, back to the budget, you know, this year they came to us and they wanted $24 million, but I think because of the Chattanooga 2.0 movement and kind of some of the things they've pointed out, some of our challenges and stuff, now they've kind of shifted the focus, Joe, as you know, and now they were wanting $24 million, and this was going to be for literacy and vocation training and sort of the things that the Chattanooga 2.0 moved out, pointed out the where the needs are. And Joe came in, he talked to me, he started looking at the budget, and I appreciate that you've done your homework. And you know that the Department of Education has had a tremendous increase. They did last year. This year, they got an additional $10.2 million for anybody that doesn't know that. That came from the state through the BEP formula. They also got an additional $45 million just in growth. So we were able to give them another $14 to $15 million without a tax increase. And Joe, you know, you pointed out, and I know you've done some research, and I'd like for you to share with our listeners, because I've heard you say, you know, you talked about our cost per student and stuff like that, and share with our listeners where we are in Hamilton County in terms of what we're spending on our students.
Well, the disparity there is that we are second in the state in spending, only behind Williamson County. But yet we're in the bottom third of the state when it comes to results and proficiency. And so it's not logical to ask the taxpayer for more money when we already spend more per student than anybody else in the state other than one. So for 93 other counties, we outspend those folks in per student costs. But at the same time, we're not getting the results. They're ahead of us when it comes to results. And so there's obviously a disconnect there. It's not about throwing more money at the situation. My opinion is, it's about acquiring better leadership, and in all levels. Again, making a good choice here with the superintendent selection, and then also administration in the central office, on the school board, in buildings. We've got to again change leadership and begin to focus on those things that are important, because money is not going to be the root of what fixes everything. Again, it's going to be, let's take a look at what we value, and what we're seeing now is we've got to start valuing communicating well, reading at a high level, writing at a high level, being proficient in math. And you know what? If we can do those things, then all the vocational and technical training that we might be interested in, it's just going to make it that much better. And we're going to produce young men and young women that employers can hire and train to do any job that they would like them to do.
You know, Joe, you mentioned a minute ago that it's been a slow decline, that this didn't happen overnight. And there's a quote that often comes to mind, especially when you look at what's going on with our different levels of government and everything in our country. And it's that the problems we face won't be solved by the same minds that created them. And we've got 4 seats up for reelection, and that would be a huge difference if 2, 3, or even 4 of those were turned over. and some different people with some different backgrounds and some different ideas were able to get in there and actually start doing something. Because as you both have said, money's not the issue. The money's there. The money's being given to the school system, but we're not getting results.
That's right.
That is absolutely correct. And it sounds to me like, Joe, if elected, that you're going to be going in there with the approach, a realistic approach, knowing that this isn't going to be an overnight fix, and knowing that you're going to have the true commitment and really the tolerance to see it through. And you won't have all the answers, because once you get in there, there's probably a lot you're going to discover that you never even fathomed. Probably a lot I don't know about. I know just cheering on the education committee and just really focusing more towards education and trying to build a relationship between the county commission and the school board, for me this year, it's been an eye-opener. I mean, we've had statistics, we've had numbers given to us. I mean, I think we're $201 or $203 million behind in maintenance. I mean, I commend you, because if elected, you are up for a great, great challenge. And I know just from getting to know you and talking to you that you got a lot of common sense. You're a very smart and bright guy. And I think that you are in it for the right reasons. And that matters a lot. But I'm kind of just curious, what do you see maybe as the top 2 or 3 priorities? We've talked about superintendent. We know that's probably number 1. So let's talk about number 2 and number 3. What do you see as some top priorities if elected, things that you may have to deal with or focus on to see change and see improvement?
Well, 2 things that come to mind. One would be transparency and accountability. And, those terms are thrown around a lot, but it just hasn't happened, it seems, with our school system recently, not just in the budget situations, but, in every move that they seem to have made here recently, personnel decisions, things like that, just making themselves more available, I think, also to their constituency. They are elected to represent a district of the county, and those folks are asking them to be their voice, to hold the school system accountable, and it just doesn't appear that that's happened. And you can look at many instances that have taken place since, even just in the last year, and see that that's not been the case. And whether they have had that power removed for whatever reason, or they've perceived there's a lack of that, or if there's just been an overall apathy that's taken place, bottom line is that it just doesn't seem that that the superintendent felt like he was working for the school board. It almost seemed like it was the other way around. And so some transparency and accountability, and then just safe schools.
Absolutely.
We all want to have that peace of mind when we drop our children off, that they are at a place where the people who work in that building have the children's best interests at heart. And we do have some buildings like that in this county, absolutely. But we need all of them to be that way. And I think if we can do that, we can start to see some measured gains in assessment just by providing an environment that is safe and is conducive to learning. And I think if we start to do those things, those are things I value greatly, and I think a lot of people do too. And I think if we can get going in that direction, it's going to take us a long way to where we want to go. And then we can start to look at some of these other things that obviously need to be fixed and but are going to take a while. And I wanted to say real quick, I know you said it is going to take us a while, and that's why I think with this superintendent selection, we need to make sure that we find the best leader, and we need to be able to look that person in the eye, he or she, and get some sort of confirmation from them that they have some resolve about them and some grit to be able to, it's going to be tough to not bail out. That's right. And be willing to be here for a while and see this thing through. And that to me is what I'm looking for. Somebody who is passionate about what they do. It's obviously a well-paying job, but I would venture to say if you got the right person who came in and worked at the level they needed to work, it probably isn't a well-paying job, and that's who we're looking for.
Well, and I think too, it goes back to the person's going to have also come in with a realistic approach too, and just be honest. Just be honest. Just communicate well. I think that's been one thing that's lacking, and that's why the public's gotten up in arms, because there's too many questions and there's not been any forthcoming, or, like you said, that accountability and transparency. And I mean, just just tell people like it is, because I think we can all handle the truth. It's just we want to hear it.
That's right.
And, I think something too, and we mentioned that now you are an instructor at Chattanooga State, and I know you coach baseball, but you've been in the system. So I think, you've taught at East Hamilton, you've taught at Ooltewah, and so you've actually been in the system. And I think that you come forth with some empathy, probably towards teachers and the situation and challenges they face every day. And you have that knowledge that maybe, us everyday people don't have, because you've been in there. And I'd like to just kind of maybe you share with us some things that you learned while being in the system, and going in, some things that that hopefully you can help improve by being an advocate for the teachers and so forth.
Well, I think, being 10 years in the system, I also worked at East Ridge High School. And so I've been in some varied environments. I've seen what a community school looks like. I've seen how a school functions when it doesn't have a very good leader. I've seen how it functions when it does have a very strong leader. And when I say strong leader, I mean someone who is a servant, someone who comes in, principals who come in with the idea that their job is all about trying to make everybody else's job in the building easier, and looking for ways to do that. And I just, those problems, those things, I'm still very much in contact with many, many colleagues in the system, good friends of mine. And so I'm not removed from what the issues are. And I'm excited about the opportunity here in August. Hopefully have good fortune to win this election, and be able to just get in there and start swinging a little bit and trying to figure out, what we can do to make the system one that we can be proud of again. I mean, I've said this before, I'm a native Chattanooga. I love my hometown, and I want our school system to be a reason that people move here, along with all the other great things that are going on in our town.
Well, Joe, it doesn't sound like you're going to go along to get along and be part of the status quo, and that you're going to be your own person. And and you're going to do your homework. And I think that that's very, very important. And I think you understand it's going to be important to choose your battles. Because you do have to get along with at least 4 other people and have 5 votes to get anything
That's
done.
right.
And you know that. But for anybody that is, thinking about selection process, please, it's very, very important who governs. If you own property value, trust me, our public education needs help. It's very important. We're at a critical time in electing good leadership. And Joe, I know early voting starts Friday. Give us the dates of early voting and where people can go and vote. And of course, tell us election day and maybe how they can get in touch with you if they want any more information.
Well, they can get in touch with me by going to electjoewingate.com. Also by getting on Facebook and searching for Elect Joe Wingate. Early voting does start this Friday. It's July 15th through the 30th. That can take place at the Brainerd Recreation Center on Northmore Road. That can take place at Eastwood Baptist Church, Ooltewah-Ringgold Road, North River Civic Center on Executive Drive over by Northgate Mall, and at the Election Commission office over on Amnicola Highway. And it's on us. So it's going to happen Friday, and election day will be 3 weeks away.
Thank you, Joe. And I just want to personally thank you for being willing to put yourself out there. I know how tough it is to run a campaign and put your family and your loved ones through it. Thank you. Thank you for your willingness to serve. And we will be back here in just a few minutes. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Maurice Lewis. When it comes to buying or selling a home, it's probably the largest purchase or sale of your life. It certainly was for me. I looked around, talked to a lot of realtors, then I met Sabrena Turner. That's when the game changed. One of the things that you look for that's most important is sincerity, understanding what are my needs, not what are her needs, but what are my needs. She showed me she had that kind of compassion. So I bought my home from her, and later on when it was time to sell, guess who I chose? I chose Sabrena Turner. She was there with all of the details, all of the follow-up, everything that you want from a realtor. That's why Sabrena Turner is my realtor.
Welcome back to the Sabrena and Ben Real Estate Hour, where we talk all things real estate, community, and loans. And Ben's not here with us today. He's supposed to be in New Orleans.
Oh, I'm sure he's there.
Lots of new knowledge on the mortgage industry. But we appreciate you for tuning in. We do have Mike Carter. We're going to bring him in just a moment, but he is running for running for re-election for state representative of District 29, and we're going to bring him in just a minute. But before we do, for anyone in the market to either buy a home or sell a home, call Sabrena Realty Associates. Our great team is standing by. Would love to help you. We'll come out and do a free market analysis and make any recommendations to you to get your home ready to put on the market. Also talk to you about our competitive commission rates. And listen, we don't have any hidden fees.
Nope.
We don't have any administrative fees. If we don't sell your home, we don't get paid. So if you're thinking about selling a home or buying a home, call Sabrena Realty Associates. We can be reached at 423-499-7780. That's 499-7780, or go to our website, SabrenaRealty.com, which we do have some great listings.
We do.
Some new listings
and
just on the market.
Interest rates are still crazy low. It is a great time to buy.
And speaking of interest rates, I think they're at 3% right now. Yeah. I know that Ben's team would love to help you get that mortgage, talk to you about different loan types. They can be reached at 423-805-9100. That's 805-9100. Now that we've gotten all of our marketing out of the way, we're going to bring in Mike Carter. Mike Carter is running for re-election as state representative for District 29. And I'm a little partial to Mike because he has been such an effective representative, and he's been a true friend to the realtor community and to our industry. He really gets it when it comes to property rights and protecting property values. And Mike, I'm surprised anybody had the nerve to run against you, to be honest with you.
Well, everyone has a right to run. It's made me a better candidate, and I've lost 27 pounds walking door to door in 100-degree weather. So it's all good.
Yeah. Well, I know you have a lot that you want to continue in Nashville, and I know you have some things that you've started and you want to finish, and probably some new things on your agenda. Kind of talk to the listeners today. You tell them whatever you want. Tell them about some things you've been able to accomplish through your perseverance, because I know you persevere, and I know you fight, and you fight for the people. And it takes that. And let me tell you, that kind of leadership is so rare.
Well, thank you.
And that's why I'm willing to get out of my lane and step out and endorse you. Really, for those of us that are elected so many times, it's easy for us to stay in our comfort zone and, not get involved. But I'm telling you, when you've got someone that's doing a good job and they are so effective, I mean, we've got to keep those kind of representatives in there. And Mike, you're one of those representatives.
Well, thank you. I have worked hard. I cannot be accused of not working hard.
Well, speaking of working hard, share with our listeners some of the things you've been able to accomplish. I know if reelected, there's some things that you want to pursue and some legislation you want to move forward in the next session. So just kind of share with our listeners any of that information.
Well, I think the proudest things, or the things that I treasure most, are the property rights initiatives that we've been able to draft, develop, and pass. When the lawyers laugh at you and say they're not waste their ink to draw these bills because it's a waste of time and it can't possibly pass, and then when it passes 85-4. It makes you feel good. Now, I did wear a car out driving across the state of Tennessee to get that, but that was annexation.
Right.
Annexation was just an absurdity. People buy homes in the county. They buy homes for certain reasons in certain locations.
Absolutely.
They like it. They wake up the next day, they're under an extreme new set of regulations, and their taxes have doubled. I don't care who wants to live in the city. That's their business. And I'm certainly not anti-city. I'm just saying that people have a right to control their property,
right,
and make a choice. So going forward, we're going to build on that, and we're going to add to it. A lot of your listeners will not know that this past year, the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation put forth a permitting process. Mm-hmm. And for many of our cities, particularly my city, Soddy Daisy, that I have a little portion of, in Collegedale, they don't have the money to go out and hire engineers to develop these plans. Right. So the state of Tennessee simply sends them this permit. If you'll sign off on it, then it'll be approved. EPA's already approved it. Well, I got a call about that from Collegedale saying, Mike, this is really going to be a problem for us. Will you look into it? And I looked into it, and what the long and the short of it was TDEC was going to put on the small towns that can't afford to draw their own permit the most serious, overreaching, and egregious stormwater regulations in America.
Wow.
Tied only with Oregon. And so I said, wait a minute, guys, this is crazy. Now, we all want clean water. We all want clean air. Stormwater runoff is a serious issue. We must deal with it. But one of the proposals that was being discussed would have added $48,000 to the cost of a 1,200 square foot house.
Oh, my goodness.
It's ridiculous.
Affordable housing would be just out the window on that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's unreal.
Yeah. What is a young couple starting out?
Yeah.
They need that home. Their home is their most valued asset. It's where they build their family. It's probably and forever will be their greatest financial asset. And so it seems so extreme to me. And I remember in a somewhat heated exchange with this gentleman, I said, you always talk about income inequality and income disparity and the rich and the poor. Do you not see that your regulations are causing this?
Absolutely.
You're doing things that lets people with means go ahead. People who are on that thin line will not be able to go forward. And I just don't understand why you would complain about the disparity in income when many times regulation is creating it. So with that, on the east side of the river, we have in District 29, we have a real problem with the lack of broadband internet access.
That's true.
And no competition for service. And so I have offended a great number of people trying to bring effective and efficient, competitive broadband internet service to District 29. Now, I have been tagged as an electric power board spokesman, that he's trying to bring the electric power board. That is not true. Now, I love the electric power board and their service, and I've had it put in each one of my businesses. By the way, Comcast, as a result of that, terminated my emails that I had had with them for 18 years. So if someone out there is trying to email me and it keeps bouncing back, you can thank Comcast for that. Nevertheless, I'm not advocating for the electric power board. I'm advocating for everyone to be able to go into that area. Yeah. Competition. Let competition prevail. Absolutely. What angered the big guys, the AT&Ts and the Comcast, is when I'm on the board called the Tennessee TASER, Tennessee, I just went brain dead, the Tennessee Advisory Commission on Intergovernmental Relations.
Yeah.
And we allegedly study difficult issues and make recommendations. Well, the AT&T came in and began to rail that it wasn't fair for the electric power board to expand because they'd gotten $111 million in stimulus funds from the stimulus package. Well, to be candid, the first meeting I ever went to after I qualified was to EPB to tell them I didn't appreciate them doing that.
Yeah.
Once I went and heard the story of how it occurred and discovered that they had to match that money.
Right.
And then think back, out of that $882 billion, tell me one project that turned a community around like Gig City.
Right.
They were faithful with the money. Now, secondly, they match that money. And here's the kicker. And here's where the private enterprise versus public, in this limited instance, I'm a private enterprise man.
Right.
As conservative as I can be. But when I find out that AT&T gets $156 million, more than EPB, and they want to complain about unfair competition. And when I asked that question to the representative on television in Nashville, it didn't go over so well. Their response was, well, it's different. It's not a tax.
How's it different?
It's not a tax. It's a fee. Every time you pay your cell phone bill, you pay a fee. That fee goes to Washington. Washington sends it back to AT&T. And so it's not a tax. It's a fee. So if AT&T will go out and provide high-speed internet service at a fair rate to my people, I'll be their best friend.
Right.
But Every one of us know that you must have competition in order to achieve efficiency. In this limited circumstances, I think the Electric Power Board needs to play in that because they're going to compete. And if you're saying it's because of the money they got from the stimulus plan, then how do you say the $156 million given to AT&T doesn't create in them a better advantage?
Right.
So I'm just saying, let's keep apples to apples, oranges to orange. At the end of the day, all I want is District 29 to have sewers, good roads, and broadband access.
Well, that's a must. That's
an absolute must.
Now, for anyone that doesn't know, what all areas comprise District 29?
Well, District 29 starts at, I guess you could say, at the airport. It goes out, gets a little bit of Concord, a tiny bit of East Brainerd there in Concord. Then it comes out, gets a small, tiny portion of Appleton, a small portion of Collegedale. Then it gets all of Ooltewah, Snow Hill, goes around Harrison. I've got some people with Harrison addresses, but they don't live in what we all know and grew up and understand as being Harrison. Then it goes to Meadowview, Snow Hill, Birchwood. Then it crosses the river and goes to Bakewell, Sale Creek, and down to Dallas Bay and Middle Valley.
So that sounds like a diverse district.
It is a diverse district. When I asked Gerald McCormick who was the drunk sailor that drew the district, he commented as a former military man that I had offended all the drunken sailors throughout the country. So, computers draw these, and there are certain criteria that have to go in, and there are very little changes made. Well, so it's just the nature of the beast.
You've got a large portion of unincorporated, it sounds like, and I know that you have to be their hero in so many senses. One thing is advocating for this fast internet, because I can't imagine, and that affects us. I mean, there's nobody wanting to buy a house out in the boondocks where they can't even get fast internet service.
Well, I recently, as you may know, looked at a farm.
Yeah.
And one of the contractual provisions is that I had high-speed internet.
Absolutely.
Now, I didn't care where it came from, even if it was Comcast. Right. They gave me great service. They just got nasty with me after that hearing in Nashville and started punishing me, which that's okay. I'm a big boy. I can take it. But that was a critical ingredient because of certain things that we do that we need high-speed internet with. My son has a little business, and we were thinking about, would it work there? Well, only with high-speed internet. So in the past, when I guess my children were growing up and we thought of it as a diversion and entertainment, it no longer is. I've got an iPhone in my pocket now that has got everything in the world I know. It's got my tax returns. I just got a business report over it. And so there are a lot of things going on. It made it very easy for me 2 years ago now to sponsor the Privacy of Your Cell Phone Act. If a policeman pulls you over now and asks to see your cell phone, he has or she has absolutely no right to see that cell phone.
Right.
It was interesting because it seemed so radical when May Beavers and Senator Beavers brought it to me. I carried it in the House. It seemed so radical. Well, 3 weeks after the decision, the United States Supreme Court said there's no issue here. These are computers. These are privacy issues where people expect privacy. And so that we were successful in that, and I'm very proud of that.
Well, Mike, I'll tell you this. People don't understand, and I don't know if it's that the media doesn't put a lot of focus or get a lot of reporting, but there is a lot that happens in Nashville on a given day. And I don't think people understand the true sacrifice that goes into going to Nashville every day and making the tough decisions. I mean, many of you are staying the night in a hotel room, living out of a suitcase and in the pay. I mean, you're not doing it for the pay. You're doing it because you want to make a difference, and you see how important the issues are and how they, have an impact and affect people's lives. And I don't think that people really know, and I'm going to give you an example here. You were a leader, and you were able to garner support from other representatives, which is very important because you have to have a lot of respect.
Well,
and you
got to work hard.
They have to think you're smart too to listen to
I don't
you.
know.
And for you to be able to be so effective coming in as a newcomer and being able to garner that other support from other representatives is so important. But I'm going to use an example, the forced annexation legislation.
Yeah.
You stopped forced annexation, and I say you because you led that fight. I give Bo Watson and a lot of other representatives credit too, but you led that fight. And so many people don't even seem to understand that legislation's been passed. And And here's what I'm talking about. I can be out at a zoning meeting in my district, and the people will come out to me, well, we're scared that Chattanooga's going to get us.
Yeah.
Or we're scared so-and-so's going to get us.
I heard that this week at a door knocking. I was stunned.
It's amazing because I'm like, you have to be paying attention to know this stuff's going on. And so I don't know if the media's not reporting it or if there's not enough focus on truly what's happening, because these are major things. I mean, no longer can these cities force you into their boundaries. And I think that is so critical in terms of property rights and even my industry, because I can tell you there's so many people, I want to live out here in, Appleton, or I want to live out here in Ottawa, and what are the property taxes? And to know that you have peace of mind and that you're not going to be forced. And forced, I mean, that's a strong term.
One of the things that I found in annexation and the battles and the travels across the state that really stunned me is that when I would ask people to list your problems with annexation, do you know what number one was?
What?
You would think taxes.
Yeah.
I thought taxes.
Being forced.
Regulation. Regulation, number one. Being forced, not having a vote, number two. And then the actual act of annexation, number three. I was staggered by that. Continually where I went, I heard that I had a farm. There's a gentleman I'm in regular contact with through Farm Bureau out in Memphis, and he was taken into a city. And they make him mow his fields like they're yards. He's been fighting them to mow his hay fields. And so, see, he's not worried so much about the tax. He's worried about it eliminates his ability to grow a cash crop. Now, I had met the mayor, and he was a nice guy, and I called him and talked with him, and they changed that for him. So there are a lot of great mayors and people who truly want to do the right thing. And sometimes these administrations or these administrative regulations occur without people fully knowing about it until someone complains about it. If we could talk on one other thing that has become really important in the last 8 weeks.
Yes.
The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals out in California, which is by far the most liberal circuit court in America. You have the federal district court, then you have the federal circuit courts, which are made up of several states, and then you have the United States Supreme Court. I was knocked out of bed when I got a text one night and looked that the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals had upheld a California state statute banning the right to carry guns under certain circumstances. That you have no right to own a weapon.
It's getting scary.
It's getting scary. Unless you meet certain criteria. So I read that, and I called a friend of mine at the Tennessee Firearms Association, who is a lawyer that's handled a lot of this litigation. And I called him, and he said, Mike, I'm just getting off a plane. I've just seen the blurb. I haven't analyzed the opinion. Let me do it, and I'll get back with you. He called me 2 days later and said, I've read the opinion. And so we started discussing it. And what is important about that decision is we don't need to overreact to the fact that these left-wing nuts said that. What we need to understand is their reasoning. Their reasoning is that the state has a right to set the standard under which the Second Amendment applies. Now, I do not agree with that. That's the most ridiculous thing in the world. However, if they're going to give me a stick to beat them to death with, I'm going to take it. Now, think about this. We now must come back and pass a clear, concise bill right to carry arms. Because with the Ninth Circuit decision, that puts us in that position. And so that has been a monumental change. Now, I had a fundraiser last night, and Micah Van Huss came in. He shot the Barrett 50 caliber in Iraq and Afghanistan. I think you got to meet him. He's a retired Marine and a young man, very young man, and just a wonderful, godly man. And when I was explaining that to him last night, he just lit up because he sees how they've messed up in a way they probably didn't foresee. He carried the last constitutional carry, open carry bill that came to my committee. It fell 3-2. I voted with him on that, but it did fail with Democrat votes on the other side. I think it will be back. I think you will find a new day because of the decision out there. Last year, we had another bill coming through that I thought had a really good chance. It died in the Senate before it ever got to us. So some of these things are pretty confusing how they walk around. But I've
Right.
always supported it. I'm going to continue to support it. The final thing, if I could say something about annexation, I get a lot of credit for that, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
You have to understand, Bobby Wood, who had basically my
Absolutely.
district for
Mhm.
28 years, filed 28 annexation bills and lost
Unreal.
every one.
Mhm. Unreal.
Bo Watson, for 6 years prior to me coming to the House of Representatives, carried an annexation bill every year. What you have to understand is all the stars have to align.
Yeah.
And what Bo said to me is, if you can get it through the House, I can get it through the Senate.
They set the groundwork. For
Yeah,
you.
and so a lot of times Bo doesn't get the credit. People
Right.
don't understand that for 6 years prior to that, he had gotten his team together. He had plowed the fields, fertilized the fields.
Absolutely.
He was ready to go. He just needed someone who was willing to lose
And fight.
in order to win.
Exactly.
Well, I've got an opponent now because of it.
Yeah.
And I think someone said in the paper, stated that he was opposed to de-annexation. It's killing the cities.
I saw that.
I don't think we're Berlin. I don't think we build walls around our citizens. I think government is controlled by the people. Government does not control the people. Somehow that got flipped around. I'm not here to be served as a
Right.
state representative. I'm here to serve.
Right.
And if you've got that flip-flopped in your mind, you need to go open a private business and tell people what to do,
Well,
not do it in government.
Like me, you represent some city residents as well. And I'll tell you, I
Oh,
fight
yeah,
for them as hard as I do
absolutely.
anybody. But I'll tell you
Absolutely.
something, back when we were experiencing all the annexations locally, I can tell you that a very common complaint I heard from city residents was our services are already diluted. We're already not being taken care of. Now, how on God's green earth can the city of Chattanooga take on more? Well, they saw
Yeah.
the big picture. They knew that their services were going to be further diluted. And we were out door knocking during my campaign, and a gentleman showed me his brush. He'd been calling 911 since November. Here it was in February.
After
And
annexation.
this is one of the newly
Yes.
annexed areas.
Mm.
They said they were getting less police control and stuff. And with all the crime going on, I don't see why a city resident would want more people coming into the city limits and their services being further diluted. And so we're advocating for them as well. But the main thing is standing up for people's rights, property rights.
Well, I want to say that there are a lot of great mayors, and I've met with a lot of them. I'll never forget sitting down at Puckett's. I had a mayor call me and ask me if I could meet him one Saturday morning at Puckett's, and I went and met with him. And he told me that the average house cost him $611 to service, and in his town he collected an average of $440.
Well, we're going to run out of time. Tell people how they need to go vote for Mike Carter. Early
Please.
voting starts Friday. Tell them
Please do.
anything you want. You got about 15, 20 seconds.
Well, thank you for your support in the past. I ask for it in the future. Let's get out and vote. You need to look at the facts and understand that I support your right to a Second Amendment weapon. You need to see what the NRA has said about that with my opponent. It's a little bit scary.
Well, let's send Mike Carter back to Nashville. And please tune in every Tuesday here on 1240 AM Hot News Talk Radio for the Sabrena and Ben Real Estate Hour. Thank you so much for joining us today. And if you need a home, call us 423-499-7780.